Hello, and welcome to the next episode of the Bank Marketing Show. I'm Dan Navalis.
Hey, Dan. I'm Chris Bates, your co-host and the show's co-host. Glad to be with you again.
Equal co-hosts.
There you go. Yeah. It's 50-50 split.
Yeah.
So episodes that are good, we can both take credit for and vice versa, right?
Yeah. I blame you on the ones that are bad, but I think this will be a good one.
I can roll with that. I will go ahead and take credit for this one then, if that's the case, because I'm really excited about having Peter Ort with us today. So, Peter, welcome. Super glad to have you joining us.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys inviting me to be on here. So it's a pleasure for me to do this.
Great. Well, let me intro you a bit to our listeners today as well, too. So Peter is Executive Vice President and COO for MCS Bank, which is headquartered in Milroy, Pennsylvania. And so he is over the management of retail operations, development, and also over execution of its marketing strategy, which is a lot, Peter, of where we're going to talk about the intersect today. So I'm excited about that. So I know that you have more than 25 years of management experience. You've been with MCS since 2023, if I have that correct.
That's correct. Yeah.
Lots of background in Pennsylvania with Pennsylvania Bankers Association School of Banking and other credentials that certainly are lift you up in your expertise in the industry, too, Peter. So, but what really got me about Peter Ort, was when you and I got to spend some time together just a few weeks back. And so I was in town with you guys for PACB and giving a full day and a half workshop on marketing and all the things, right? And so we covered a lot. And we kind of started at brand and ended with AI and covered everything in between. And Peter, what really jumped out, and it was so great having you as with your COO hat on as part of this group of marketing directors and marketing leaders. And your mention and then talking further about marketing, corporate culture, HR, all of the above, and the crossover impacts of those. And I just loved your perspective. So, and I brought it back to the shop and talked to Dan about it. And we were like, yep, we got to have Peter on and talk to our listeners about it. So thank you for coming on. And we're really excited about this conversation today, Peter.
Well, thank you as well. I feel blessed to be here. And again, it's something that for me has been just kind of a hallmark of my career, just that intersection of culture and people and being able to understand teams and putting good teams together based on a cultural fit versus, experience maybe in the banking industry. I've had much more success in hiring based on attitude and not necessarily aptitude. So culture really permeates everything that we do. And that's not just operations of the bank, but it is HR, it is marketing, it is, it really gets into every facet of what we do. Yeah.
Well, and you make a great point about that. And I think we wanted to kind of lead in and have you talk a little bit about that, is that sure. HR is not just this island anymore. It's not, HR is not a recruitment account and then pulling people in and going through your onboarding, you sign your tax forms and you go to work. And it's not that at all anymore. And I think largely because of both culture and marketing, HR is a huge intersect of all of the above. And that was what we talked about a little bit. And I heard you talk about when we were together. So do you want to kind of keep going and elaborate on that a bit more?
Well, I think there was a lot of, and I talk in different times when I talk about leadership, post World War II, people came back from, fighting in a war. And leadership was very command and control. You do this because I told you to do it. You do it now. And leadership has really, leadership has to drive the culture. And so leadership taking on more of a servant leader type role and type of, that's the leadership style, I guess, is the best way to put it. But when you take on that leadership style, it really has changed the dynamics from a command and control to a collaborative type of environment. And again, there are still some old command and control type organizations out there, but they're dying off because they can't retain employees, especially when there's a competitive market. And employees are saying, you know what? I'm tired of being mistreated. I'm tired of, having to go in and I feel like I'm Sunday night. I get, you start to get like nervous and upset stomach and everything because I have to go to work the next day. And the culture, shifting the culture really changes that dynamic. So, for us at MCS Bank, we are employee centric. And when I say I don't necessarily worry about the customer, I don't mean that in a bad way. I worry about the employees and their experience. And if our employees are getting a great experience or given the tools that they need and just the environment is right for them, the customer benefit, they automatically benefit because that just rolls on down through the employees who are having themselves a great experience. They're going to give our customers a great experience as well.
Yeah.
And that I firmly believe that.
Yeah, in it, and we're going to talk today too about how that flows into marketing as well. But it's so true of like, even today and post COVID world of everything's online first. A lot of banks have employees spending some remote days at least, but like, culture means like you're hinting at, Chris, means something much different than it did a few years ago. Mm-hmm. But it's still important to, your employees are the ones that talk to the customers. Mm-hmm. And if they're mad about being there, if they're upset about something, it flows in. And I think it's another point where community banks can compete with other banks. We talk a lot in this show about like compete in terms of your marketing message and be more human. But this is like truly a way to be more human, is treating your people well, and that's gonna come out to your customers. I love that perspective.
Absolutely, Dan. Exactly, and we really try to embody that. And again, I want people to be excited to be able to come to work. I want it to be a good place. So again, people respect each other. We have a phenomenal team. And again, any bank that has branches, I like to refer to this, and there's things written about this, but having a team of teams. And, each branch might have its own individual style or might have a little bit of, we don't want to crush any individualism or expression for people. What we do want to do, though, is make sure that we provide an overarching culture from, our team here at our headquarters on out through all of our branches. And basically, we are a team of teams, and we all believe in that overarching culture. But it's okay, the dichotomies that we have being next to a really up and come state college, Penn State University is just over the mountain behind my shoulder here, and so that's a dynamic, very fluid, very tech-driven, economy. And then the converse of that is behind my monitor is Belleville, where there is a lot of Amish customers, and it's like you're going back hundreds of years with regard to technology. So we have to serve both of those clients. So you have some different dynamics within a branch, but that doesn't mean that our culture isn't still the same. Yeah. It's serving our customers, serving our community. And if that community is horse and buggy, or if that community is high tech, electric cars and all the others, that all just comes under the same idea that they're different customers, but we can still take care of them, same intentionality that we would, anybody. So we treat people well. And again, we do that vis-a-vis our employees.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you make a great point. Of all the banks across the country that Dan's agency and mine work with, Peter, each individual bank may have some very small town rural locations and at the same time urban locations, and those are drastically different cultures. Just as what you described is a kind of a cutting edge culture and all of that versus one that is far more traditional. Whatever those are, whether it's regional or whatever the demographics are, it's a great point. But the consistency of what you're describing and what you guys have as a goal for your team, Peter, I think as we were talking and preparing for this episode, we kind of said that customers can feel your culture. So I think that's what you're talking about, is by starting that focus internally with your team and your team of teams, as you say, then there's there's authenticity there. There's all of that. It's not reading from a script. It's the opposite of corporate. It's relational. Right. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And again, people can tell something is contrived. We want it to be, as you said, very natural. And it's really baked into our DNA. We talked at the conference a little bit about, what some banks say about how old they are or whatever. Yeah, we've been around for, over 100 years, just over 100 years, but that's not really the important part of our story. Our important part of our story is, we engage with the people. If we kind of, and banks have to really pivot on this. You have to provide those technologies and those things that people want. I call it a twin rail strategy. You have traditional rail where people want to, do things the way that they've done them for a long time. Banking has evolved immensely, even in my time in banking, the last 20 years or so. But we do want to provide also that other rail of technology and ability to, use AI, to use, smartphones and devices and everything. So we try to be very selective about it. We don't want to chase off after every new trend. But if we see something that's really taking root, we try to engage with that and embrace it. And we do. We talk to our customers and ask them things that they would like to see and technologies that they might want to embrace. But all the while, we still have to take care of having that hitching post outside for our Amish customers to come in and do the business that they do. They even have embraced some technology as well. So, there's just always being responsive, I think, to your employees who interface with those customers, and they give us the feedback through conversations they have with our customers, and that way then we can really try to engage with. We're not a big bank. I can't just have us throw money at every direction for technology. So we really try to be smart about it and selective and choose things that really, I think, make a difference for the customer, but also assist our employees in serving our customers. So
provide the tools, and
that's right.
And let them. So many banks, as you're talking, I'm thinking about a couple of other banks I've worked with. They're like one or two branches in an urban area and a couple branches in a rural area, and it's so easy in that, and similar to your situation, like it's so easy to genericize, right? Your culture, genericize your marketing to serve everybody the same way. And, but you're going to make a bigger impact on your employees and your customers if you have a strategy like yours where you're adapting. And I love when you said a few minutes ago, like we're a team of teams, and you're giving people, you're giving your employees the sort of space to maneuver within their team and for the customer set that they serve. And then at the same time, the customers have room to, every bank would say we want our customers to bank the way they want to, but you're actually creating room for that. You're not forcing, you're not forcing every group into the same thing. I want to talk too about like how this, that authenticity, because the bank marketing show like comes out in marketing too, right? If you're forcing everybody into the same box, it limits what you can say in marketing. And I'd love to hear how you, how you think about that, how you think about this, that authenticity kind of coming out on the on the marketing side for your bank.
Absolutely, Dan, and thank you for that. And one of the things that really, Chris, I want to commend you on your presentation up at the PACB event. You had a day and a half, and normally I know that a lot of times you come in, maybe do a presentation on a topic or so, but to come in for a full day and a half and really present content that is not repetitive, that's interesting. You did a fantastic job with that. I do want to commend you for that.
Thank you.
It was a very good conference. But one of the things that you talked about that struck me was, telling the stories. And I think I talked a little bit about, a customer we have that does something pretty unique in a unique space. They build custom boats. And so one of the things that we've done is we've collaborated with them to put together a marketing campaign. and it's not even a campaign necessarily. It's going to be showing what it is that they do, and having some vignettes, video vignettes, and some stills and things like that, using dynamic content with maybe having the boat ripping up the river, and having the voiceover with the guys that their passion is this, two guys up in a rural community build these jet boats, and they're actually getting shipped all over the country. But we want to tell their story, and we're a part of their story because we help them get set up with a lot of this stuff. And then the larger bank that they had previously didn't serve their needs, never visited them. So we went up and visited with them, and we talked about what it is that they want to do, how they want to grow, and how we would like to grow with them. And that relationship has just become a very close collaboration. It's just been very symbiotic as far as us working with them working with us, and we want to tell that story. And so we have a great story to tell. Dan, kind of to your point, we really don't focus a lot on pricing. Our marketing is, by and large, it's branding. It's who we are, and just being focusing on our employees, focusing on our customers and what they do, and how we meet the needs and tell the stories of our community, and not just here's a price, here's a rate, and this will help you build a deck.
We describe that as the race to the bottom often. Yeah.
It is. And so we're not big enough to win on price. I'm never going to have the lowest loan rate. I'm never going to have the highest CD rate. So why would I try to attract people using those metrics? So, and then once you get them with that metric, you need to retain them with that metric. And that's just not who we are. We're a relationship bank through and through. And I've heard customers in our lobby say, to one of our lenders, hey, I can get a lower rate over at the other bank, but I like dealing with you. And that really means something. And those are the things that we meet a lot of needs in our community that some of the other larger banks just don't want to do. And maybe loan requests or whatever. We're building branches in our community. We have a branch that we're going to break ground on in a small community up the valley here next month. So we're reinvesting and doubling down in our community. We know our community, we know our lane, and that's what we push when we talk about marketing. We really focus on our story, our customer story, the community story, and our employees, and that's really the focus of what we do. It's nothing fancy, but it's I think resonates with our constituency and our customers.
Yeah, but Peter, Dan and I shout that from the mountaintops, that telling of story that you're talking about creates so much room for genuineness, differentiation, all the things that we talk about over and over and over again for community banks that some are good at and some are just not. And or the purpose of this show, we're trying to pull more over into, okay, guys, let's do story.
Yeah, that story is the differentiation. Yes. And a lot of banks are just afraid to tell it. Or like it is work to pull those stories out of day to day. And if you've built a culture that's very connected to your tellers and your frontline, and so you imagine that. Maybe you talk about that, like how do you get the stories out of the front line? So we, every other episode of the show, we're saying, go talk to your frontline folks, go talk to your tellers, your loan officers that talk to customers all day, and really understand the problems, the questions that they get asked. That's what you want to be talking about in your marketing.
Well, it's funny. Just this week, we had a Google review, a 5-star Google review from a customer who had a mobility scooter, and 2 of our newer employees. I think one's been here maybe 2 months, and another one's probably close to a year. And he personally called them out on his Google review and thanked them and said, I had a little difficulty getting in there, but man, was it worth the effort? But the key to that is that, we get that story and we hear that. And then it's like, well, first of all, I want to thank the customer for recognizing those ladies for the job that they did, but then I want to celebrate them. And so, we kind of, those kinds of things are vital and important. And if you reinforce, hey, you did something great.
Yeah.
And they hear that reinforcement, and, our CEO and myself are saying, hey, I stopped in and dropped off some cookies and said, you guys are awesome. And this customer loved you gave him an experience. You didn't give him a transaction. You gave him an experience. And that transcends so many things like this that meant something to them. I always liked Maya Angelou's quote when she says, people will never remember what you said or what you did, but they will remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
And to me, that was the epitome of that comment.
Peter, a lot of what's really interesting is Dan and I have spent a lot of episodes, some last year and certainly a good bit this year, around AI. And we spent a good bit of my conference time leading the conference with you guys around that. But everything that you just described, you can prompt your brains out, and it's not going to it's not going to come up with those stories. It's not going to do that. So Dan, to your point, Peter's leadership team and the connectivity with their frontline staff and their, and the entire team and this culture that you're describing opens up all of these opportunities for story that, if you're kind of sitting in the back room and your marketing is just kind of creating generic content, it's not going to transpose that. It's not, you used the word disingenuous earlier. People can smell it. In marketing. So the genuineness of what you just described is go to the boat manufacturer and tell the story of that tell their story. It just happens to be on your channels.
Yeah. It's their story and we're a part of it. Well, and they can then leverage their media, their social media. They leverage their side of it. We leverage our side. I get twice the advertising and I haven't spent a dime.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say too, like, I've worked with banks that will do a customer kind of highlight, once a quarter or something like that. But, if it's and you can tell the difference if it's a bank that marketing is a separate but kind of back office function versus like a, front of house integrated, culturally integrated with the frontline staff. The difference is what you just said, like the back of house marketing bank would do a profile on a customer, but they'd like send an email to them and say, fill this out, describe your business. What's your URL? What's your social media handle? And then they pull an image from the website and that's the Facebook post versus a story about how the customer has grown alongside the bank that the customer is actually excited to share on their social media as well. And that, helps their brand as much as it does yours. It's a much different approach, but it's, it's just really hard to be that, to do that without that culture in place.
Yeah. You can't fake it. I mean, that's really truthfully, a lot of, you can't put a bunch of posters up in your break room and say, we've, checked the box on culture. It is a constant, it is a constant living thing that you work on every single day. People think I'm nuts because I'm involved in every interview. In fact, we just hired a part-time summer college student, but I was in the interview because if I'm the person responsible for driving culture at this institution, when they come through the door, I want to make sure they fit our culture before that. You can't will that into people.
Yeah.
I mean, you can help them acclimate to a culture, but you have to hire them based on culture, or else all you're doing is remedial after the fact, trying to, bring them on board with it. And so to me, that's a waste of time. People say, well, how do you, why do you waste time interviewing? And I'm like, I'm not wasting time. I'm saving time by being involved at the very outset. And I also get to establish a relationship. They look at me as, hey, this person, the COO of this company, had enough wherewithal or enough intention to come to my interview, and they were involved in my hiring decision. I get a ton of extra buy-in. anytime we bring a new person on board, whether it's a C-suite person or a part-time college student, I want to be involved in that decision making, because if I truly believe in our culture, then I should be a part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Amen to that, Peter. We spend an inordinate amount of energy here at my agency on the same thing, and hiring focused on who you are, not your skill sets on your resume. And I'll lean far further into who you are, even if we have to train more than we might like to. And what you do is you look up and you have the kind of culture that you guys have that you just explained, and it becomes attractive. It becomes magnetic. And to that point, one of the things that I literally heard you say when we were together, and because, like you said, we spent a day and a half on the whole world of marketing in the banking realm. And you actually said marketing isn't just external when you were talking about your team and all of that. So expound on that a little bit for us, because I mean, you mentioned mission and all these things, and I was like, okay, that how concise and encapsulating that is, that marketing is not just external.
Well, no, and I appreciate you bringing that up. It is something we're intentional about, where we want to promote our own people within the four walls of our building. So marketing is heavily involved in celebrating milestones. We give out plaques when they reach a 5 or a 10. We have monetary bonuses for longevity. It is something that we're intentional about. We want to celebrate together. We want to celebrate our wins. We want to celebrate each other. And we actually have a program where we call our customers. Every single customer gets a call on their birthday. And it struck me that, are we calling or reaching out to our employees when it's their birthday? So I call either stop in person or call every single employee on their birthday. And again, is that marketing? Well, not really, but it is something that I think when you kind of get introspective a little bit and think about, what we're trying to provide to our customers, that should be the bare minimum of what we provide to our employees. And so when you have that culture of understanding, that culture of empathy, we want to give them grace. We want to give them a voice. I always talk about there's 4 pillars of great cultures, and giving people voice is one of them. So that goes back to, allowing them to express themselves. There is no, we don't shut people down when they want to talk and they want. The minute you start, clamping people down on their ideas, you then create a culture where it's not okay if you can't have free expression. And so open dialogue, open communication, being transparent, that goes both ways. And so we see that as a really good way for us to, again, give voice to our employees, let them have that ability to express themselselves. So that's all part of, having those 4 elements of a good culture, as we like to express that.
Yeah, I think you make me think of a former client of ours, and Chris and I in a podcast guest that redid their brand, designed a new logo, and they were excited about the brand, but then when they announced it to their employees, I think everybody was surprised at how excited the employees got.
Yeah.
And how it just felt like a turning point for the bank. And it wasn't even a new name, it was just a new logo. Yeah. But it brought the bank, forward, and then the employees got on board, and you could just sense that it's probably over time going to help with retention and help with attracting new employees, and it very much turned into the logo redesign was for external marketing, but it made a huge impact on that internal marketing. And if you have a culture where you're not thinking about that stuff, then you're creating other problems.
Well, I think too, then, when we think about culture, it is a dynamic thing, but we need to be talking about it with every employee. And one of my favorite stories was when JFK in the early 60s went to tour the NASA facility, and he walks up on this older fella there, gentleman. And again, I don't know if this story is true or if it's been, a bit. I do like the idea behind it, but he asked this gentleman, what do you do here? And the guy's kind of standing there with a broom. It looked kind of obvious, but he said, I'm helping to send a man to the moon. And the idea that NASA, and again, I think that story's been collaborated, but NASA had such a grasp on that idea, that culture, that every single person embodied that, including the custodial staff, that their job directly linked to sending a man to the moon. And I shared this at the conference I was just at with the Mutuality Conference with a bunch of CEOs and board and executive team members. But I shared the story that our courier, who works part-time 3 days a week, he's one of our best employees. He is a brand ambassador, that he is so into the culture that he's a retired guy, but he fixes things at the branches. He goes and helps people. Some of our employees, he helps them with like personal stuff, like something with their car. Last week, he helped a customer fix the gate. It was a customer. He was going to pick up the deposit, and they had a gate latch that had a problem. He had tools in his van. He went out and got him, fixed the customer's gate. It's like, I can't buy that kind of promotion. I can't buy that kind of marketing because it doesn't get any more real than that. And when you have a customer that calls you, and we get calls sometimes from the adult children of older or elderly customers who said, your staff, his favorite, my dad's favorite teller called him and wished him a happy birthday, and he won't stop talking about it. He's so excited that somebody thought of him and reached out to him on his birthday. And I share that with our team because you made a difference in somebody's life today. You made them feel heard. You made them feel seen. You made them feel wanted. And that transcends HR. It transcends marketing. It transcends operations. It is, if you have that in your DNA, those are things that it's just doing the right things and being kind to people it's just tremendous to see the effect that has, and little things that we do that really change people and affect them for positive things.
And then pulling that forward in your marketing messaging. And how you do it, that it's about the people and the relationships and the customers and all of that, rather than a bullet point set of features of an account, which matters. And, it's kind of like what you brought up a little while ago or alluded to, Peter, about, the fact that your bank has been around over 100 years is a cool authority statement for halfway down on your about page.
Right.
If that's your lead, then you're not telling the story. You're not transposing what it is that the essence of what a community bank is really about. And that's what those marketing opportunities are.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and again, when we celebrate some of our partners in the community, a lot of the nonprofits we really focus on them and try to, hey, these guys do this, and this, and man, we were excited to be a part of it. And instead of, extolling our virtues and saying, oh, MCS did this or MCS, sometimes we go out and we hold the big check up or whatever, but really celebrating them and their space and what it is that they do and how they help the community. We get the benefit of that, kind of reciprocally, that, it's not something we're out there shouting on the rooftop about, look at us, we're great, but we celebrate the community members and the things that they've accomplished. And you know what? They'll reciprocate back to us. And that message gets sent loud and clear through the community. We don't have to brag. We don't have to boast. Yeah. We don't have to jump up and down.
You're creating
I think a
culture and an environment
where celebrating them.
Yeah, you're creating a culture and environment where the customers will celebrate you, and you don't have to shout it from the rooftops. I love that.
That's exactly it. And that's, again, that's gratifying when you have young people that we've hired and trained. And again, I think this goes back maybe to some conversation we had earlier, but we intentionally don't seek out people with bank experience. Frankly, I'd rather take the extra time and train them. I don't know why they left the other bank. That's not to say we've never hired somebody with bank experience, but I don't want to have something, this is the way we did it over here or whatever. A lot of banks want to take the shortcut of, well, they're already trained. They know what deposits and withdrawals are. And I just don't see that as being a shortcut. We talk about training. I think Richard Branson had a great quote when he says, somebody asked him, what if we train these people and we leave and they leave? And he responded, well, what if we don't train them and they stay? That's, kind of an idea there that's like, we need to train, but we need to equip our people. We need to help them, give them the tools they need, give them the systems they need, give them everything they need to be successful. And they will absolutely, move heaven and earth. And again, you can't give them shoddy equipment and expect them to do great things. But if you give them the right tools, the right environment, and that's really huge, you give them the environment to succeed, and they will absolutely blow your doors off every time.
That's so good. Well, Peter, as the three of us were preparing for this conversation today, one of the things that you helped kind of outline and discuss a little bit were some, I guess, tips or takeaways or whatever we want to call them, but kind of what are some immediates, some small things that our listeners as bank leaders and marketers can do to improve culture, like what's something you can start doing now? Because culture is a big thing over time. We all realize that it's not you don't change the environment by, getting free jackets with their names on them and giving them to, or whatever it is, and being silly.
Right.
But, that's not how you do that. But you got to start somewhere, So you would kind of come up with some, here's kind of some things that are little immediate things that can add up over time. So do you mind maybe share a few of those? And for all of our listeners, if you're riding your bike down the road, remember we're going to have this in the show notes. So
yeah, thank you for teeing me up for that, Chris. But it's the old axiom that how to eat an elephant. It's one bite at a time, and culture is a little bit like that. You can't put up some posters in the break room and have an ice cream truck come by on Friday, and that's fake culture. That's contrived, and culture is people, and so it is meeting people where they're at, having policies and procedures that allow them the freedom. I have a phrase I always like to say: family first. If you have a family issue, you've got to take care of that. There's never going to be a time where it's not okay to go and step out and go do this. If somebody needs a mental health day, by all means, take a day and just go and sit, wherever makes you happy, go do that. But really, I think there's really kind of 4 ways to have a quick start on your culture. I think the first one is just having an honest assessment of what is your culture right now. Having that awareness of, okay, we might think we're over here, but really our culture truly is, over here. We might not like to see that. We might not like to hear that, but you have to have an honest assessment. You have to be honest with yourself, and you can't let the C-suite say, no, I think our culture is good. So one of the things you can do with that is really just have an employee survey, even a pulse survey of some sort, but ask those questions about and be purposeful about what things do we do well, what things. And another key to that is be anonymous. The second that you do a survey, and if you tell people that you're doing it anonymously, and then there's some sort of retribution back, that they're going to put 2 and 2 together, and you will end up destroying any trust that you've built. So making it anonymous, they can truly give feedback without fear of any kind of of issues. So the survey will do that. You observe and analyze. I mean, I have a nice office here. I really like it. It's a great space, but I don't want to spend a ton of time here. I like getting out and spending time in our branches. I like getting out and spending time with our people and just being able to be available to them. My job is to help them do their job better. So again, you have to then seek organizational, you get your culture from observation and being out there, getting surveys, and then you take what your culture actually is, and then what is your ideal culture? What do you want your culture to be? And you have to kind of figure out who you want to be as a bank and what your culture should be like. And then you need to seek organizational alignment. You need to be vocal, and you need to really talk to people and get a sense of, how do we align these things? And you talk about silos and things like that. How do we remove those roadblocks? How do we get those things? How do we get buy-in from? And that has to be, that has to be from the people. That has to be somewhat organic and not just top down. This is what we're doing. People will support what they help to create. And if you give the people the buy-in and you give them the opportunity to have a say in your culture, that has a lot more power than just being told this is what our culture is. So you improve the surveys on the scores that you didn't do well on. I'll tell you, most surveys come back. Communication is one of the big ones. Top down, lateral, communication always on that list. So, how do you do that? You identify obstacles, and then you provide systems and services and quality systems that will allow those things to improve. So that is get the buy-in. And then the last thing, and really the most important thing to sustain a culture over time, is to walk the talk, and you walk the walk. You do what you say you're going to do. And again, there's the idea that there's companies out there that this is what we believe, and this is the action. This is what we do. And if those two things aren't aligned, then your culture is not. It's going to be terrible, because we're saying this thing and we're doing this thing. They're not aligned. So when those two things come into eclipse and they really kind of converge on each other, that's where your thriving culture really kind of comes out of. So. If you do believe in a culture and you want to, continue to grow a culture, that does have to be top down. It doesn't have to be dictated from top down. It has to be lived out from the top down. And the C-suite has to walk the walk. We got to align and live our values. What we believe, what we say, and what we do are in alignment. And then we need to build interpersonal trust. We need to build commitment from our teams. We don't expect them just to commit to us. We commit to them. And when doing that, when we commit to our teams on a level that is intrapersonal and builds trust, they will commit back because you provided that thing for them. Employees want trust. They want understanding. They want stability, and those are the things that if you do employee surveys, 1 million employee surveys, there's really 4 basic elements that come out of that, and those are the trust, the care, the communication, the empathy, if you will, stability, and just also a hope or a vision for what's possible. If you give employees hope, it's so powerful.
Yeah.
So those are 4 elements of something and they intersect all over the place. So
the top down, I think, is super, super important, right? I've seen a lot of organizations where the C-suite, cares about the culture, but then you've got a certain department that not that a department doesn't care about culture, but doesn't focus on it as much.
Right.
And, it sort of breaks down, and it can be kind of infectious across the team, where you have one department of folks that aren't that happy, even though the rest of the bank does focus on culture. And so, if it comes from the top down, it will flow through that, and that doesn't happen
Yeah, that has to be an element of it. And again, it would be disingenuous for me to tell somebody, well, this is the expectation we have for you, and I'm not willing to do that myself. So, that's it's important that we lead, and as a servant leader, you can't fake that. And sit down with your employees. I sit down, with my direct reports, basically informally every single day, and ask them, is there anything I can do for you? Or what can I do for you? And that truly is the essence of my job, is helping our employees be the best they can be. I've always said, hire great people and give them the freedom to be awesome. And that's truly my mentality. So it's vital to be top down.
Peter, one of the things that I love the most in kind of encapsulating so much of what you've talked about and what we've discussed in this is that every one of our listeners can implement these things. We haven't discussed things that you have to be a $2.5 billion bank, or you have to be a super small bank, or you have to be urban or rural or certain culture, whatever. It's I mean, this is everybody that is listening here. Like, okay, these are things that we can do, and to move the needle, as you said, eating the elephant one bite at a time, which lends itself to genuineness also. You're not going to walk in and establish a whole bunch of new SOPs that are going to, next Wednesday, you're going to have great culture, and you can't do that with operations. You certainly can't do it with culture. And the way that this permeates, I loved what you talked about marketing internally as well as externally through stories and things. So this has been really, really great stuff that I hope our folks can take a whole lot from and kind of go, okay, here's some things that we can do better. So,
well, even to add to that, Chris, it's not even about my demographics or none of this really costs anything.
Right.
It's just treating people right and being intentional about it, and being genuine and real and kind, and that doesn't cost $1. I mean, you can do things for your employees, and we certainly do. We do picnics and Christmas parties and things like that. But just meeting them at their level and talking to them and being, striving to help them do what they do to the best of their ability. But sharing that vision of, that teller doing that transaction, the fact that we have those deposits on allows the lenders to do the loans, which allows those customers to buy their first house. And when you connect the dots for them, and they know that they're a part of something much larger, and the tasks that they do throughout the day might seem, I don't want to say menial, but they seem like, really not all that important. But here's the deal. Every time you do, it made a difference to that customer. Mm-hmm. And how that intersects with all the things that happen behind the scenes. And so everybody's job, including the courier, including janitorial staff, they have stakes, they have table stakes in everything that we do. And so every opportunity we have to give towards our community, be it with the fireworks, donation, or doing the fireworks from our building here, to helping people achieve their dreams, and that 16-year-old buying his first car, young people being able to finance their college, their college degree, people being able to get insurance. We have insurance and we have investments. We truly offer cradle to grave services, which many institutions do. But having the people on the front line that are out there every day have an understanding of what I do impacts everything else that we do, and everything else that we're able to do in the community. And we have a volunteer policy. We let our employees go out. We pay them to do volunteerism in the community. So those things mean something. And when they see that and feel like they're a part of something bigger, really powerful things happen. You don't have to buy them ice cream every Friday, but it really is help them have that shared vision. And that's my job. And so sharing that vision with all of our people, no matter what they do, is paramount to what we need to do together.
Yeah. Well, no doubt those things in cumulative are what raise the tide, Peter,
Yeah.
which is really cool. So, well, man, this has been just absolutely super. I really appreciate it. And so speaking of culture, one of the things that Dan and I do here on the Bank Marketing Show is we want our listeners to get to know you a little bit better before we let you out of the door. So if you can stick around for it for a second, we love to go through our lightning round.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
All right.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, we'll toss a few questions at you. So can you share a personal best or business best with us?
I would say a personal best. I did go through the Advanced School of Banking, the Pennsylvania Bankers Association Advanced School of Banking. I did graduate with honors. So that was something I felt was, and I really enjoyed that. It really helped me see, really all aspects of how banking works. And I'll give them a shout out. It's one of the best banking schools in the country. And they really get after it with regard to teaching young bankers just the insides and inside out how banking works and how things operate. So that was an achievement for me within the banking industry that I was proud of.
Good deal. Yeah. All right. What about a favorite book or other resource that comes to mind?
I think I have a lot of books about leadership and culture, and I love a lot of them. I think probably one of the best that I have enjoyed was The Dichotomy of Leadership. Jocko Willink and Leif Babin were two Navy SEALs that kind of put the idea of every leadership decision we have really deals with these dichotomies of the extreme on this end or the extreme on this end, and where to find that sweet spot somewhere in the middle. And I think for myself and my leadership journey, kind of helped me see that, hey, we don't have to die on every hill. We have to, kind of navigate a lot of these dichotomies. And we even spoke about one earlier with regard to our customers who are, the tech savvy, very high tech over in State College, Penn State area at the university. And then we have the folks that are horse and buggy Amish in our Belleville market. So, that dichotomy is something we have to, figure out. Okay, we can do different things for both groups and still, provide them the services they need. But I know leadership is fraught with dichotomies and hey, you got to make a decision somewhere here. And just being able to understand that it is a dichotomy, and then where to find that middle ground, where to find that sweet spot where you can really accomplish, where you have the win-win-win situations instead
Nice.
of, so that was important to me. So that book meant a lot to me. That was
nice. Let's check that one out. So, Peter, what comes to mind for you as the most impactful piece of advice you've received?
The best piece of advice I've ever received is never, never, ever take criticism from somebody you wouldn't take advice from. So,
okay.
And I try to explain this to a lot of, my wife included, maybe you get your feelings hurt because you've been criticized, but my question always is that a person you would take advice from? And when the immediate answer is no, then don't take criticism from it. They don't deserve to criticize you because you would never take advice from them. So if it's somebody that I just don't believe has good, sound judgment, their criticism means nothing.
Yeah. Nice. That's a good one. Yep. Well, flipping that around a little bit, what's something you tell your staff, your clients? What's a piece of advice that you guide them with?
I usually, I go through the building every day and say hi to everyone. Really, before I fire things up on my computer or look at emails or anything like that, I try to go and greet every employee and say good morning to them and say hi. But I always ask them if they're ready for another day of banking excellence, is my quote. And they actually will sometimes say that to me as I come through the door. They say, "We're ready for another day of banking excellence." But we say that, and I also tell people when I maybe sit down one-on-one with them and we talk about, some of their career plans and things. I truthfully, and I mean this from my heart, I want to be the best friend your success ever had. Meaning, no matter what it is that you want to achieve in life, I want to, again, I want to try to be the best friend your success, whatever that may be. I want to be the best friend that it's ever had.
Awesome. Good stuff, Peter. Yeah. Thank you. Well, listen, if you're open to it, some of our listeners may love to reach out to you and connect with you and engage with you. So is that, what's a good way to get in touch with you and maybe let folks connect with you?
The best way to get a hold of me is probably via email. It's peter.ort, O-R-T, at MCS.bank. So be careful. People will put .com as a kind of, they're used to doing that, but it is .bank.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
And I'm on LinkedIn as well. So if anybody wants to reach out via LinkedIn, I'd certainly be able to collaborate with folks on that platform. But it is something I'm passionate about. I do like to share leadership opportunities, cultural, ways to strategize on culture and things like that. So appreciate that opportunity.
Absolutely. Man, this is great stuff. Big value for our listeners, Peter. We can't thank you enough.
No, I'm humbled to have been asked to be here. And again, I want to be a resource for people, not just my people, but anybody that really is interested in improving themselves and really, expanding their leadership journey. I'm still learning. I told you at the marketing conference, I'm not really a great marketer, but I know great marketing when I see it. So I truly mean that. So I'm not an expert by any means in marketing, but I do enjoy good marketing.
Awesome.
Was that great having you on today, Peter? And I know I've learned a bit about culture and how it kind of comes together at the bank level. So I really appreciate your time and great chat today.
Yeah. Well, I think some of the best opportunities we have come through serendipitous means, and Chris and I kind of connecting at a conference, and then kind of leading to this, and Dan to meet you and to hear the passion you have for your team and the things that you do, and Chris, yours is obvious. Doing a day and a half conference was impressive to say the least, and I applaud your passion for what you do, and I love your approach. You guys get marketing and understand it and know how to really drive the passion behind that. So I recommend either one of you highly to anybody listening as well. So.
Very cool. Well, thanks a lot, Peter. And for all of our listeners, too, remember you can go to bankmarketingshow.com and we'll have show notes and links and lots of recaps of information from this as well. So check that out, and we appreciate all of you. Thanks again, Peter.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks for joining us. To go deeper or get access to some of the valuable nuggets from today's show, go to bankmarketingshow.com. There you'll find episodes, links to resources, and much more. Be sure to subscribe wherever you find your podcasts. And join us next time.